and his show Blackout Diaries many times. If you have not seen it, you should check it out. It's hilarious. It's a show that combines sort of more seasoned comics with just also amateurs and regular people telling just absurd stories of drunkenness. And in 2014, the reader named him Chicago's Best Drunk, which I believe one of these guys said is at a dare, but yes. He's been featured on Comedy Central. You can see Blackout Diaries every Saturday at Hi-Hat. It was like at Lincoln Lodge and then Sub T, and now it's at Hi-Hat, and that's just a couple blocks from here at Irving and Wolcott. So please give it up for the very funny Sean Flannery.
Thank you. Thank you for having me part of this amazing show with all the amazing people that have been up here. I truthfully don't know my first lie. I consider myself a mostly honest person, and usually when I lie, I'm the only one who faces the consequences of it. Yeah, and I lie all the time. I lie in job interviews all the time. I was like, I'm just gonna lie and say I own this skill set. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I don't get the job right. The worst that can happen is they hire you and you don't have that skill set. But it's always me facing the consequence. So this is a story about the first time my lie had consequences for somebody else. And it also had consequences for me. And believe it or not, I think this person may or may not have had higher consequences, yet I, within this story, ended up totaling my dad's car, separately fell off a building, broke my back in 3 places, and shattered both heels. Now, if you're gonna wreck your dad's car and your basic ability to walk, it should be for the right reasons. And guys, to this day, I would do it again. Because the reason I did all this was to sneak into a Huey Lewis concert. I love Huey Lewis. Like, I love Huey Lewis. And in the late 1990s, his career had gotten to the point where he was playing private pharmacy conventions in 1996 in Cleveland, Ohio. My buddy had just graduated from Harvard Medical School. He's going to become a lead scientist. He turns to me, we're going out for the weekend. He's like, I've got this private event for my company, open bar, pretty cool. You know what's weird? Huey Lewis is gonna be there. And I'm like, you gotta get me into this. And he's like, well, it's actually, like, I think they had to spend like $10,000 a person. Like, I think security's tight. I'm like, you gotta find somebody that doesn't wanna go, and I'll go as that person. And he found this old guy out of New Jersey that didn't want to go. Ed Mitzen in Creative Healthcare Solutions. I moved a million times. I always held on to my identity badge from this evening because it became so crazy. And I go as Ed Mitzen, and I see Huey Lewis, and it's amazing. In a small, it was actually at Dick's Last Resort in Cleveland, Ohio. That's how fancy Cleveland is. So like, well, Dick's Last Resort is the only one that can hold you all. But I then end up at like this rich dude's apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, and my dad was a social worker with 7 kids, like I never had a lot of money, so like I'm like, oh my god, this place is amazing, it's right by the lake, and I'm drinking, nobody else is drinking like me, and I'm like, let's go up to the roof, and they're like, nah, it's not that kind of roof, but I go up there anyways. And I'm so lost in the beauty of the lake and the rivers, and that I've seen Huey Lewis in a small venue, that I sort of lose track of where I'm at, and I walk right off the roof and fall 3 stories. It was one of those situations where you just think you got a little bit more roof, sometimes you're coming down steps and you think you got another one and it's not there. Like, I thought I had another clean step of roof and it was not there. And this happened, I'd say, within 25 seconds of going up to the roof. I was later told by my buddies, I'm like, I'm going up to the roof. The people were like, is that okay? Like, and they turned to my friend, like, is he gonna be okay? My buddy, Harvard med grad, goes, Ed Mitzen's the best goddamn pharmacist I know. And they see me fall through the bay window. They just see me fall. I hit the ground. For half a second, I truly believed I died and have become reincarnated, because I see all these adults above me, like you've just been birthed into the world, total strangers, I don't recognize a single one, and they're all going, Ed? 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 And that's when it hits me. Shit, they think I'm Ed Midson. I was 95% sure I was going to die from my injuries. So I panic, because I'm like, shit, I'm going to die. Which I didn't mind that much, but I was like, I'm going to die. And they're going to call Ed Midson's wife. I went as Ed Midson in Creative Healthcare Solutions. I was later told Ed Midson is a 75-year-old hippie that didn't like medicine. So his wife is going to get this call, like, hey, Ed's dead. Like, oh my God, what was it? Stroke? Heart attack? No, he got hammered at Huey Lewis and walked off a building. So I sit up, I go, I've never been a pharmacist. Don't tell my wife. And then I just fall back to die. I never thought those would be my last words on the planet at the start of this night. My buddy picks me up, throws me in my car, which my dad owns at this point, and just leaves. And like, parenthetically, I always wondered what that exit looked like to those other pharmacists. They had to be like, Jesus Christ, that New Jersey office parties. Ed Midson just walked off a building, told us not to tell his wife, and is off to another party. We're driving, and my buddy turns to me, and he goes, Jesus, Flannery, I can't believe you're alive. When I saw you fall through the window, I thought you were dead. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, me too, brother. I mean, I thought I was a goner. He's like, yeah, I really never thought I'd see you again. I go, me? Yeah. I go, you know what? It actually wasn't that bad. Because as I was falling, I just heard the power of love in my head. And we both start laughing so hard, he loses control of my car and hits a tree. The car that my dad owns. So I've now, in about 180 seconds, I've walked off a building and hit a tree in a car. They don't get to the course of Power Love in 180 seconds. I've been in 2 major accidents. We get out of the car. Luckily, his apartment that they were paying for was nearby. We tried to walk through the Taco Bell parking lot drive. They won't serve you if you're not in a car. Even if you point out your car is a smoldering wreck in the yard over there, they still won't serve you. I go home. I think I'm okay. I wake up about 5 hours later, and I'm very sore. And that's when I decide to go into the ER. I don't know if anyone else here has ever been to the ER at like 5 a.m. But it's like a UN for drunk people, where everyone has hurt themselves and they're finally sobering up and feeling the pain. It's like that scene in Beetlejuice where people just have nails coming out of their head and they're waiting to be routed into a room and no one can explain. I remember the guy in front of me, his exact quote was like, all I know is Bob has a new ride lawnmower and I have boat fuel and here we are. And I was the same way. Like I had no idea what I was like. Listen, I saw Huey Lewis in the news last night, and the evening kind of got away from me. And I'm told I walked off a 3-story building. And it turns out in Ohio, and this is a hilarious state law. They have a state law where if you fall more than 12 feet, you have to have an X-ray. So they do an X-ray, and that's when they realize. And I didn't feel that bad, so their mood was calm. When they did the X-ray, their complexion all changed. That's when they realized, because I was so drunk, I walked off a roof. I kept walking. I didn't know I was falling, so I didn't brace myself. So I shattered both heels, and the force of the fall compressed my first 3 vertebrae. So I had a compression fracture. And the surgeon they brought in with the X-rays is one of the funniest things. He kept looking at the X-ray, then looking at me, going, my God, you must have made no effort to adjust whatsoever. said he had never seen the injury in anyone under the age of 92. He brought in another team of surgeons to look at it, and it was a hole-in-one or something like that. And I'll never forget what the other surgeon said to his residents as long as I live. The other surgeon is holding up the x-rays, talking to his residents. He goes, "This guy, he walked off a roof. I'm talking Daffy Duck style." It was his medical terminology for how I injured myself. And I show up for work that Monday. And I remember I was young, I was a philosophy major who was hired to solve a Y2K bug in Cleveland, Ohio. So I was the youngest guy. And I was so cocky back then. And I remember leaving for work that Friday, and my coworkers who were all 30 years older than me going, "Sean, do you have any big weekend plans?" And I remember going, "Oh yeah, not like you losers. I'm going to see Huey Lewis in the News at an open bar." And I love that their next visual of me, after I Cadillac out of the office, was me coming in a full torso suspension cast and 2 full-body legs. But I still think my Monday might have been easier than the person I feel most guilty of, Ed Midson's Monday, where most of his company thinks they saw him die. And I just want, if this is, I know this is a podcast, if this makes a podcast, and Ed Midson, if you're out there listening, I owe you one. And I know the band's going to come up here, everyone, and I just want you to know that death is inevitable. We're all going to die, but you have nothing to fear because this is what the end of the world sounds like. Thank you very much, everyone.